friend. You're listening to The Sustainable Body Worker, the podcast for massage therapists who want to grow thriving, purpose-led businesses without the burnout. Here we talk about nervous system aligned business strategy, pricing that makes sense, client work that doesn't deplete you, and how to build a career that actually supports your life. I'm your host, Gretchen Pop, massage therapist, mentor, educator, and recovering overachiever. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to The Sustainable Body Worker, where we talk all things massage business, particularly building a practice that actually fuels your life instead of draining it. Today's episode is a bit of a love letter, especially to anyone who's ever felt like the weight of building a purposeful business is just way too much sometimes. If you've ever worked yourself into the ground, doubted your path, or stared at your calendar wondering if it's even worth it, this one's for you. But before we dive in, take a second with me here. Let's land just with a quick grounding reset. Just take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just notice your surroundings and notice one color that you can find that you find enjoyable. Now tune into your body. What sensation are you aware of? Maybe it's just your body on the surface beneath you, the breath in your chest, maybe that tension in your shoulders you didn't notice until I just said that. That's all welcome here. All right, let's drop in. Here's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Joy and burnout often show up in the same season. We've all been there. Maybe things are growing, opportunities are opening up, your practice is expanding, but at the same time, your nervous system is fried, your personal boundaries are shredded, and your evenings are filled with just one more thing instead of any kind of rest or nourishment for yourself. And that was me more than once and for a very long time, if I'm completely honest with you. And I promise I'm going to be completely honest with you on this platform, and I'm really looking forward to sharing more and more of my story. But recently, things have changed tremendously for me, and it's not because the stressors have disappeared, anything but. Trust me, they are still everywhere. I can still see them all perfectly fine when I choose to look around with those glasses on, and I'll talk about that more in another episode. But amidst the ongoing chaos that is life, I've realized something important is different about me this time. I've been consistently feeding my joy. That's what I'm going to talk about with you today. And this has had a massive impact on how I perceive everything that happens to me. And so I'm excited to share more with you about that today. And it starts with a little story which happened about 2 years ago when I bought my home. And this is a dream I've been working toward for over a decade. And I'll tell you this much. This experience was far from picture perfect. We ran into so many issues in the process of closing and moving and discovering more things about this house that I actually ended up just having to laugh about how ridiculous it all got, because the only options were to laugh or cry, and I had already cried a lot. So I just started laughing at how ridiculous it was instead. But despite all of the challenges, something kind of magical happened, and I want to focus on that here with you. I can go into so many details about how many chaotic things happened, and I would be wasting your time because the point of this episode is the magic that happened around the same time. So, at what seemed like the crescendo of this comedy of errors season of my life, I was in the midst of being scammed by an unlicensed roofer, which was honestly only one of the many challenges we experienced with this house, but this one particular morning, I was sitting on my front porch, trying to ignore the fact that there was no roof above me and only tarps to protect my home from the elements during a particularly rainy season. And I was just getting my mind set for the day ahead while I was sipping on my morning coffee, and a hummingbird came by. And the hummingbird visited, in particular, a catmint plant that I'd purchased the first week I'd been here. Gardening is my greatest source of joy in life, and this plant had finally started flowering. And I actually had no idea that catmint was a flower hummingbirds even liked, but I've seen now after a couple seasons here, it's usually the first plant this little guy visits every single morning, which is really great. But on this day when I noticed the hummingbird, he hovered for a moment, and I could have sworn he met me at eye level for a moment and stared deep into my soul. And then he went on to go enjoy the flowers and zoomed off. And immediately I remembered something that I had learned years before. Hummingbirds symbolize joy. And from that day on, the hummingbird became my little reminder to plant my joy. Not just notice it or be grateful for it when it happens, but to actively surround myself intentionally with it and to nourish it, to create more of it, to choose it again and again and again, and to literally plant it like I had by planting that catmint plant and attracting the hummingbird to my front porch. So I did just that. I started buying more plants. I intentionally refilled the bird feeders very often because truly it's all the birds and their little bird songs. That's something that's really truly magical here compared to Colorado where I moved from. And I made sure to sit on my porch more and more often. Every morning when the weather allowed it, I really dedicated that morning time. And I started paying more attention intentionally to things which were always around me, bringing a sense of joy, despite whatever chaos might be at the forefront of my mind. And what happened was nothing short of miraculous. More hummingbirds came. There's actually 3 species, or at least 3 different little specific characters I've noticed that come by each morning now. And more miracles started happening around me despite the chaos that has ensued. And like I said, the challenges with this house and life in general continue to happen, as it does. But I found I became a lot more capable of letting it brush off, especially the little things, which normally would have added to my chaos, but now I can just let it brush off and actually be happy because I'm now open to it. And I was allowing myself to focus on the happiness rather than the chaos. And that's what happens when you not only pay more attention to the things that bring you joy, like the well-known gratitude practices help you do, still a great practice to do, but I'm talking here specifically about actively feeding your joy. And there's a subtle difference there. When you feed your joy, intentionally plant it around you, it shows up more often. You get to create more opportunities for it to show up in ways that are most meaningful to you. You see it in new, unexpected places. It becomes your default lens, not because life got easier, but because you built the muscle of remembering what matters to you. And this isn't bypassing. Like I said, the challenges are still there, and by no means do I simply ignore the bad things that are going on. But with more joy in my life and these lenses on, I can handle those challenging things with a better attitude, and it therefore becomes less problematic for me. So let's talk about the brain science of feeding joy, because I promise you this isn't just a fluffy little feel-good episode here. So you may have heard the term negativity bias before, but let's really break it down. Your amygdala, your brain's built-in alarm system, is hardwired to prioritize threats over everything else. Back in our cave-dwelling days, this kept our ancestors alive. If anyone would miss the rustle of a predator in the bush, that was it. Game over. But here's the kicker. Your brain hasn't updated its software much in these 10,000 years since that's been our reality. And in your massage business today, the threats look a lot more like a client cancellation or a poor Google review or a quiet week on the books ahead. And even though you're not facing actual life or death situations in these scenarios, your brain responds much in the same way as it would with a predator abound. It launches the spiral of adrenaline, cortisol, tightening your muscles, making your breath more shallow, making you compulsively overthink and start to spiral. I'm wondering if this starts to sound familiar to you. Now let's layer in what's actually happening with our nervous system. If you've studied polyvagal theory, or if you've just lived in a human body, you know we have a spectrum of states that we live in. We have our regulated, connected state, our sympathetic or fight or flight state, or shut down or freeze. Most of us are cycling between sympathetic and freeze, especially when business or life gets hard. And the secret to building a sustainable business isn't just better time management or better marketing. It's building a nervous system that can tolerate expansion. And, fun fact, Joy is one of the quickest ways to access that regulated, connected state. And as I've shared before, we can plant that joy and get that to happen. And this is great for people like me who have a more hyper-vigilant tendency to want to control our environment. It meets that desire while simultaneously doing something that regulates our nervous system and starts to subliminally help us reduce that hypervigilance in the first place. So that's a little fun trick there. When we experience joy, we stimulate the release of those feel-good neurochemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. And these chemicals don't just feel good. They increase motivation, they deepen our capacity for connection, they regulate the immune system and digestion, and they are literal healing agents. But, and this is crucial, they don't flood the body from occasional random moments of joy. They come from intentional, repeated engagement with things that bring us alive. It's one of those buttons that needs to be intentionally pushed consistently. Just like exercise sucks if you do it just once, but doing it regularly becomes a huge mood boost that's often been considered by many to be more effective than antidepressants. So when I say feed the joy, what I'm actually saying is feed your vagus nerve, feed your immune system, feed your business resilience, through the process of finding what brings you joy, what makes you pause to smell the flowers, so to speak, and plant more of that in your life. It might not be gardening for you like it is for me, so scan your life for what that thing is that just makes you feel fulfilled. And it doesn't have to be huge. So here's a practical hack. Once you know what that thing is for you, when you experience that moment of joy, maybe it's watching a sunset or hearing your favorite song or petting your dog, hold that feeling in your body for 12 to 20 seconds. Really intentionally hold and experience how it feels in your body. And that's what Dr. Rick Hansen, a neuropsychologist who's written extensively on this, calls taking in the good. It's a simple practice that tells the brain, yes, this matters. Let's keep it, focus on it. And since the brain really is just a computer program that produces more of whatever you focus on, it'll respond with, okay, here's more of that. Like when you're looking for a new car and all of a sudden you see 5 of the same one in the same color you want on your way to work. Those cars have always been there. Your brain simply opened up to seeing them because you programmed it to understand that that car is important to you, so focus on it. The same thing happens when you sit with the flowers or smile at the hummingbird that flies by or sit in awe at the magic of the leaves rustling in your favorite trail or whatever it is for you. Soaking it in matters and makes a big difference. We do this a lot together inside my membership with the hypnotherapy tracks I've developed for massage therapists. So just so you know, this is achievable even when you're simply accessing it inside an imaginary state inside your mind. So let's try it right now. This one's really fun. If it's accessible to you, close your eyes, and if not, just bring a moment to mind. Think of a recent moment of joy. Maybe it was a time when you laughed so hard you cried, or a really great hug with a loved one. Maybe hearing a client say you're a magician. Just go back to that moment for a second and really feel what it felt like to be there. Let it fill your body. Get that experiential feeling. And then once you tap into that, breathe into it. And your brain cannot tell the difference between something really happening to you or being imagined. So each time you revisit these positive memories in your mind, it reinforces its desire to find more opportunity for those experiences in your waking life. But the same thing does go when you dwell on the past or tell yourself you're not good enough or walk through every possible negative outcome in your mind. Your brain cannot discern and doesn't discern for you whether you're focusing on the good or the bad. It only adjusts its lenses on what to look out for based on what you're programming it with. So pay attention. And if you need help in shifting out of those negative loops, because I know when I've been there, they are slippery, you can experience how hypnotherapy can shift this inside the free breakthrough session I offer, linked below in the show notes. It delivers a custom hypnotherapy for you based on where you're at and could quite possibly be the first real shift to breaking through. But let's get into some real life examples of joy as a strategy. Before joy was a part of my strategy, I was a high-functioning burnout machine. My clinic was booming. I had made it to that enigmatic 6 figures. I had a full schedule, a wait list, glowing reviews. All of the success markers were there, but inside I was not well. I was stuck in a cycle of proving my worth by over-delivering, micromanaging everything, saying yes when I should have said no. My boundaries were paper thin. I'd skip so many meals because I was so glued to the work that I ignored my body's hunger signals. I'd check my phone before bed to just catch up on one last thing, only to lie awake with racing thoughts for hours beyond that. The fibromyalgia flares were very regular and predictable. And as someone who teaches sustainability, let me tell you, there was nothing sustainable about what I was doing. I was embodying hustle and disembodying my own wellness. I was taking hundreds of dollars of supplements a month, which then I would have argued were a part of my wellness routine, but truly were necessary for me in order to offset the cortisol damages I was doing to myself with my actions. But after I made joy part of my nervous system hygiene, everything changed. No, I didn't move to a cabin in the woods and drop out of society, though sometimes that still sounds appealing. I'm still running programs, mentoring students, launching things, and holding space for clients in person, still doing all of those things. But now I schedule my porch time like it's a meeting with my CEO, because it is. Future me is the CEO, and she needs me regulated and resourced. I spend time with my garden even when there's a long to-do list, and sometimes I intentionally go to my garden when my to-do list feels like it's getting longer and longer. I say no, even to big opportunities if they don't light me up. I've learned to measure success not just by income, but by how much joy I can hold in my body while I do the things that lead to that success, especially without feeling guilty. And I've seen this ripple out with my clients too. One of my students inside the Sustainable Bodyworker membership recently implemented something similar. She particularly was stuck in the loop of more content, more marketing, more trying to figure out the algorithm and really focusing on those external things. And I could see visually that her nervous system was completely fried. Her confidence was low. She kept showing up to the calls asking for more and more and more strategy, like that was going to fix the fact that she hadn't slept adequately in years or even taken a breath in between words. I had her put everything down for 1 week and instead just feed her joy for 5 minutes a day. I refused to give her more strategy. It was not working for her. And it started with just a few simple shifts, and it took her a little while to get there. But when she went all in, everything changed for her. She started with just going out for a walk, just a simple walk once a day when she would normally crash out on the couch and doom scroll. So she replaced that doom scrolling and went outside for a walk. And this was a simple replacement of time that she was already wasting with something accessible, free, and proven to be psychologically and physiologically healing. And what happened next was really awesome to witness. Not only did her anxiety disappear, she showed up to her calls so much more calm. It was kind of like talking to a different person. But her ideas started flowing a lot more easily. She started having her own organic ideas. She wasn't really looking to me so much as being able to fuel her own ideas and follow that a lot more easily. She started having really super clear ideas about improvements to her business that got her really excited instead of causing more stress. And clients started booking more regularly with her, seemingly out of nowhere. She didn't implement a new marketing strategy. They just started booking. And she had the energy and inspiration to come back from her walk and actually start implementing some of those new ideas that she was getting. And so she wasn't doing anything more, but she was being more. And that's what happens when your energy shifts from constriction to expansion. Your field changes. The people who are meant to find you feel you differently. And let me just say this. If you're wondering why it feels like you have to work so hard to get clients, consider that you might be building from a place of survival. And clients can tell, even if you never say it aloud, and even if neither of you are consciously aware of it, the subconscious mind is way more intelligent than we give it credit for. Intentionally planting joy in your life, even with that simple walk that this student of mine was doing, can reintroduce you to your magnetism. You don't just look like a thriving practitioner, you are one. You embody the thing that you're selling. balance, well-being, healing, peace, and that's really powerful. You're able to share that energy with your clients, not try to draw from an empty well. So this is where I want to shift gears from storytelling to actual strategy. You've probably heard people say, just do more of what you love. But I want to get way more specific than that, because feeding your joy isn't just about doing nice things for yourself. It's about training your nervous system to feel safe, experiencing positive emotion. And sometimes our bodies don't let us do this. And I even find myself doing this. For example, when it's time for me to do my yoga practice, which I've been doing daily, rarely skipping a day for 4 years now. Even when it's time for me to start my yoga practice, I'll find myself dilly-dallying, thinking about cleaning up little things and doing procrastination things around the house. My subconscious mind is trying to block me from doing the thing that will get me super regulated. It's a meditative practice for me, and it gets me in a really good state. And I can witness this. I can see that even still 4 years deep into this very, very daily practice for me, there's still a subconscious block. So we need to get our nervous systems to feel safe experiencing those positive things for us, because it will continue to block it no matter how regulated you are. It's a very, very strong muscle sometimes. And the only way to bypass that is practice. So here's your coaching moment today. I want you to grab a pen and actually write this down. If you're driving, go ahead and pause the episode and make it a point that wherever you park, take a moment for this. We're going to write this down on paper. We're not just going to keep this in our head or on your phone. Writing things down by hand will increase neural encoding, and it literally helps your brain start to believe and prioritize what you are writing down. So here's what you're going to do. This is going to take just a minute. List 5 small, accessible things that consistently make you feel lighter, brighter, or more like yourself. Now, these are not things that cost money or take an entire weekend, so check those off the list. I want you to list things that are available to you even on your busiest days. So let me give you a few ideas from real body workers I've worked with. Playing fetch with the dog in the backyard, watering the plants while barefoot, watching an inspiring DIY YouTube video, listening to a nostalgic playlist while folding laundry, reading 3 pages from a favorite novel between clients. Seriously, joy doesn't need to be epic. It can be really, truly simple. It just needs to be yours. And once you have those 5 things, here's the second step. Pick one of those things and build it into today's schedule. Not as a reward, not as a maybe, as a non-negotiable. This can seriously take 5 minutes, okay? It doesn't have to be huge. This is part of your nervous system regulation protocol now. And you've likely had protocols for pain management, for stretching, for inflammation, so why not for joy? And if your brain resists this, it probably will. If that little voice kicks in like, well, yeah, that sounds nice, but I've got 5 clients back to back. I'm already rushing late for work. I've got laundry to fold after that, emails to answer, and dinner to make after picking up the kids, da-da-da-da-da. I want you to know that is the survival brain talking. That is not the part of you that builds long-term success. That's the part trying to just get you through the next hour. And you can give that part of you a compassionate hug. It's really stepping up and doing a really wonderful job at protecting you right now. And I promise, I get it. I've been there. And I'll say it again. Joy is not fluff. It is truly fuel. And when you prioritize it on purpose, you make your nervous system an ally in your business, not a saboteur. And if you're interested, the breakthrough session that I offer in the show notes really will help you break through that sabotaging voice. So whether it's lighting a candle for a moment of prayer, going outside to stretch your spine after a long day, or listening to that quick hypnotherapy track during lunch, you have time for this. Joy is not a luxury or a byproduct of success. It's the soil your business grows in. And if that soil is depleted, it doesn't matter how many seeds you plant, they will simply not take root. You might be thinking, okay, Gretchen, this sounds lovely, but how does prioritizing things like hummingbirds and morning yoga actually change my business? So here's the truth. It changes everything. It's the foundation. That's why I start there. When I was running my clinic at full steam, we were hitting all the business benchmarks. My schedule was booked solid, my team was fully booked, I had the fancy business coaches and advisors. From the outside, we were absolutely crushing it. But on the inside, it felt like I was a magnet for chaos. We had constant issues pretty much from the day we built out. We've had multiple floods, mold remediation, legal battles with my landlord, you name it. And the kicker, I was self-medicating just to make it through the day. My fibromyalgia was flaring. I was exhausted. My marriage was tense. My daughter was always getting sick and ultimately had a chronic bone disease. And every part of me was in fight or flight mode. And yet, I thought this meant that I was doing something right. Like somehow the more problems I had, the more it meant I was leveling up. And I am not the only one who thinks this way. I have seen this being worn as a badge of honor, and I wore that badge of honor too. I had bought into the lie that hustle was holy. But I wasn't feeding the joy. I was feeding the chaos, and that chaos grew. And the shift, I think, started happening the day I fired a client for the very first time. And this wasn't just any client. This was my landlord's wife. She had been walking all over my boundaries, and I had let it slide because I felt like I had to. But something clicked. Maybe it snapped. I finally said no. I refunded the rest of her package and told her we wouldn't be working together anymore. And for me, that was the beginning. The moment I stopped tolerating what drained me, I made space for something better. I started meditating and doing yoga every single morning before I turned on a screen or answered an email. I began each day by resourcing myself before tending to anybody else, family, clients, so on and so forth. Or especially just the never-ending drills of business ownership. And guess what happened? My clients shifted. I was able to raise my rates from $120 to $150 an hour, and I still had a wait list. Not because I got better at marketing, but because I got better at alignment. I stopped trying to please everyone, and in doing so, I became a magnet for the right people. And I had the clarity and confidence to show up online in a way that felt good for me, which lit me up again. And that's what opened the door to something even bigger, letting go of the clinic altogether, focusing on what I truly loved, and eventually moving out of the state I thought that I would be tied to forever because of that brick and mortar clinic. I was able to buy the home I had dreamed of for over a decade, and for the first time in my adult life, I could feel joy without guilt. And even though this house did come with a lot of issues, I've been able to move through those challenges better than my former self ever could have. And that's what feeding joy does. It gives you the ability to recenter your business around you, not just your skills, but your soul. And when your nervous system is resourced, you start showing up differently. You don't flinch when it's time to enforce a boundary. You have the energy to create, not just react to the current demand. You stop people-pleasing and start powerfully leading. Your website and social media become magnetic, not because it's optimized or SEO optimized, but because it's alive with your actual energy. And most importantly, you stop building a business that drains you and start creating one that actually fuels your ideal life. So yeah, I'll say it again. Joy isn't just fluff. It's not woo. It is fuel. And if you want your business to last and to feel good while it lasts, you've got to put joy back at the center. All right, friend, I hope this episode lit something up in you. And if it did, and if you're feeling the pull to take this deeper, I want to invite you to grab the free customized breakthrough session I've created for body workers just like you. It's a short hypnotherapy experience and mini business training that helps you uncover what's actually holding you back in your business because, spoiler alert, it's not just your marketing plan, it's not the economy, it's so much deeper than that. You can find that link to go deeper in the show notes. Until next time, remember, you are not here to build a business that burns you out. You are here to create something that fuels your life, and joy is part of that plan. Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Body Worker. Be kind to your nervous system, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for listening to The Sustainable Body Worker. If something resonated for you today, grab your free breakthrough session, which includes a custom hypnotherapy track to help you unlock the next level. Grab it now with the link in the show notes. And to hear more, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.